What is up, everybody? I hope you are having a fantastic evening. And it's Tuesday, which means I got my guy So Real Sunil in the building. We definitely have some things to talk about, but amongst them are the 49ers contenders or pretenders. They are one of 10 teams that are 2-0, but are they for real? We're going to discuss that plus more next. All right. Welcome back to Last Second Sports. We are giving you our take down to the last second. I missed a real opportunity in that moment when I asked if the 49ers were for real. I should have been like, are they so real? Like Sue Neal. I missed it. I flubbed it. I thought about it as the intro was hitting. Either way, Sunil, my guy, how you doing tonight, brother?
Man, last week we felt undefeated, first place in the NFC West. Week 2, still undefeated, still first place in the NFC West. It's a good week. It's a good week, brother.
Man, we already got people checking in. Paul says that we can't crown anything yet, and then Sacking Fan says they were Super Bowl contenders. They were in the Super Bowl just over a year ago. They're definitely contenders. We'll talk about it. But before we get there, let's talk about if we're optimistic or if we're concerned a little bit about this team. And I really think you can go both ways here. Yes, they are 2-0. That's a reason for optimism, certainly. But this team's also very banged up. And some of the usual suspects that do get banged up throughout the year still have not missed time. And so they've got a huge division game coming up. And this game is going to be super crucial. Last year, they were 1-5 in the division. They've already started out 1-0, which is a great sign. Starting out 2-0 and then in 3-0 overall would be really, really clutch. So the question is are you optimistic about this team? Or are you a little bit concerned based off of maybe some of the injuries or some of the play that you've seen on the field, Sunil?
Yeah, and I think you have to take this in context of what we've seen so far, right? So reality is the first 2 teams they played aren't necessarily teams that we look at as playoff contenders. I know you're higher on the Seahawks than most are, but I'm going to shocker be in the bucket of optimistic, and I'll tell you this why. For me, Jesse, I'm looking for, okay, what am I learning about this team based off the circumstances that they're in? Now, unfortunately for us, this isn't the first time we've seen the 49ers deal with massive injuries, right? This isn't the first time we've seen them deal with quarterback injuries. This isn't the first time we've seen George Kittle be out or significant weapons on the offense be out. But we haven't seen the team be able to win close games where but where both sides of the ball really had to make plays for this team to win, and the 49ers execute with all of this turmoil or with all of these challenges there. So to me, that's something to be optimistic about because the offense is making timely plays and being able to put points, on the board in the fourth quarters, which has been a struggle for this team in the past. The defense has been able to close out these close games, which has been challenges in the past where, each one of these games that the 49ers won where they were easily offensive drive away from the opposing team to score and either take the lead or tie. And the defense both times were able to make timely plays to ensure that that didn't happen. The other thing that we haven't seen, Jesse, is a team, especially on the defensive side, and now, the offensive side as well, where important reps are being taken by rookies, and rookies are needing to execute for this team to be successful. And I would say that overall, the rookies have been doing well. Now, are they excellent? Are they, great? I don't. I'm not yet to say that. I think there's certain rookies that are doing better than others, but overall, I would say that the rookie class is holding up and at least playing well enough for this team to have a chance to win each one of these games. I think anybody who was being reasonable about what this team was going to look like knew that this wasn't going to be just utter domination where this team could go off and win by 2, 3 scores because of the injuries and because of the rookies that were being, you know, involved in so much of the game plan. But the constant narrative about, Kyle Shanahan, he can't close out close games. One possession games going into the fourth quarter, he was like one in, I don't know, double digit losses. Well, these last two games, they have been close one score games. They've won both of them. And, the offense has, even though maybe not looked like where they're putting up 30 points a game, they are scoring touchdowns. They are better in the red zone, and they are, finishing drives and scoring enough points where the defense doesn't have to go out and get 3 turnovers, score on defense, and things like that for this team to win. So for me, all of those things point to more optimism, Jesse. Now, with that being said, obviously, I think the first challenge is going to be against the Cardinals this week, just because they are playing a better quarterback than the last two quarterbacks that they've won again. But even the Cardinals, they know they're not like world beaters. They're struggling as well. But it will be interesting to see a more mobile quarterback, what the 49ers defense looks like.
Well, I can't wait for behind enemy lines tomorrow because I know the Cardinals' top 3 corners all got hurt last game. I don't know if they're going to play or not. That's going to be crucial for them and, make things easier for the 49ers if they are not in. I see my guy Ryan checking in. He's a childhood friend of mine. What's up, Ryan? I see you in there. All right. Are we optimistic or are we pessimistic basically about this team? You got to be optimistic. I mean, they're 2-0. No matter how you slice it at this point, wins are tough to come by in the NFL, and you touched on it briefly, and this is something I've been talking about, how this season is going to be a real character building season for this team, not for this year necessarily, but for the future. This is a team that had a 35% roster turnover. They're trying to bring in a lot of young guys to be contributors long term, and those guys need to learn how to win in the NFL. Hell, Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan need to learn how to win from a sense that they're not used to playing in tight games week in and week out. Now, week 1, they were in that. They were able to win it on the road. I don't care what it looked like. Division team on the road, week 1, it can always be squirrely. And they were able to figure that out and get that win in the fashion that they did. Last week, the degree of difficulty went up because you're on the road again. Yes, the Saints are not as good as the Seahawks, but you're on the road. You are at a 10 a.m. kickoff time for the West Coast. You've got your backup quarterback who throws the ball 39 times, and you find a way to win also. So overall, the team started 2-0, which is what I had predicted when I went through the schedule. I thought that they would be 2-0 at this point. Now, I will say I did pick against them last week because I didn't know that when we looked at the schedule that they would be starting Mac Jones and that they would have all these injuries. And I thought it would be really tough to overcome that. So I did pick against them last week. But when I looked at the outlook of the season and giving them their 10-7 record, a part of that was starting 2-0 against the Seahawks and then the Saints. And that's exactly where they're at. So I can only be optimistic from this point that we are at. Now, it is very, very hard to look past some of the injuries that they've had, even some of the bullets that they've dodged as far as other injuries to guys like Trent Williams, who was able to play last week, but he's still ailing a bit. So there are certainly reasons to be concerned, but I'm not concerned about this team overall. 2-0 is 2-0. It's hard to win in this league. They are one of 10 teams to be there, and that makes it a great start to the season. So now there is a different question at hand, though, Sunil. Being worried or not being worried is very different from, is this team truly a contender? Now, it is early in the season. I understand that, but we've got to take what we know at this point, and we also have to mix in part of what we know is that a lot of these players are going to be back soon. Brock Purdy will be back soon. Kittle will be back soon. Ayuk, um, Robinson, like a lot of these players are going to get healthy down the stretch. And we also know that other players will eventually be out. But is this team a true contender? And here's how I'm going to preface this question. To me, there are 4 teams in the NFC that I look at as true contenders to make an NFC championship this year. I think right now those teams are the Eagles, the Bucks, the Rams, and the Packers. Those are the 4 teams that I'm looking at. I think the Lions have an outside shot if they can continue to put things together. The 49ers are 2-0, maybe they have a shot. Are they contenders or pretenders under the prefix of not making the playoffs, not finishing with the record that you thought before the season, but making it to another NFC championship game? Contenders or pretenders 2 weeks in? What do you think?
Such a brutal term, pretenders. But
It's
I
harsh, I
think
know.
that I
It's a
don't
cruel
think they're
world, Sunil,
well, in this world of the Jesse dichotomy of either contenders or they're
for sure.
pretenders, I would have to lean more to pretenders. And the only reason for that, Jesse, is because we don't know what this team is going to look like yet, right? You mentioned all of that when you asked this question. What does Brandon Ayuk look like? What does Demarcus Robinson look like when he's integrated into this team? What is who's this quarterback going to be? Is the timeline for Brock Purdy really the 1 to 3 weeks, or is there going to be anything that causes that to linger? And even if Brock Purdy comes back, what is his mobility like? Because that's obviously a big weapon for him as a quarterback for this. So are we moving forward with Brock Purdy being the starting quarterback because he's healthy, or does Mac Jones need to play, a significantly more role in this offense because of Brock Purdy's injury? Like, so for me, because there's all of those questions, Jesse, it's too hard to really identify what this team is contender wise. So I would lean if I have to choose between that pretender. But I do think when we revisit this after, week 8, week 9, I think we'll have a much better understanding of what this team looks like, what this team is, when they start integrating some of the pieces that are there. Malik is another guy that we got to see how he gets
True.
integrated into this defense, which I think he's an impact player as well. Obviously, these rookies, getting each game is a huge amount of experience for them and gets them more and more confident in their ability to play a bigger role with this team. So for me, they are pretenders as of now. I wouldn't put them on the level of those 4 teams that you mentioned, but I also said I am optimistic about this team. So in 4 or 5 weeks time, my answer might be different.
Yeah, it's crazy because the NFC, you've got to me, those are the 4 teams that I'm looking at that are contenders as far as making an NFC championship. And then you have some other pretty good teams. The Falcons look pretty decent after a couple weeks. I know they're 1-1, but they played a Bucks team that are 2-0, and then they had a great win against the Vikings. You've got the Lions, who didn't look so great week 1 against the Packers, who are 2-0 now against playoff teams, but they looked phenomenal this last week, but it was the Bears. So they're I think the back half of the NFC is wide open, and that's why I think the 49ers certainly can make the playoffs, and 10-7 should get them in. But are they contenders or pretenders based off of them making it to the NFC Championship? They could win in the wild card round, and under this circumstance, they would be pretenders if they were to lose in the divisional, which is, to your point, very very harsh, but it's real, Sunil. That's the way that this show works. So, based off of that, I think they're certainly pretenders. I don't, barring like tons of injuries, then the 49ers getting super healthy, which certainly can happen. And we will revisit this later in the year. We'll probably hit this again around at week 10 or so. And then towards the end of the season, as they hopefully are entering the playoffs. But at this moment right now, 2-0, and just looking at some of those other rosters and what they'd have to go up against, I can't see them beating any of those teams. We're going to have a very clear view, though, after week 6, because what's going to happen is they do play the Rams. They do play the Bucks. I'll be at both of those games. And I'm curious to see how that plays out. If they get out of there 1-1 or 2-0, or even if they go 0-2, but they're very, very close games, my opinion about this team might really change. And so maybe actually the next time we revisit this is after week 6, when they've played the Rams and the Bucks, 2 of the teams that I say right now are true contenders. We'll know much more about this team. But in this moment, I think they're pretenders when it comes to making an NFC championship. I do.
Can't
Are
argue
you
there.
are you Are you going to any games this year, Sunil?
Um, Nothing scheduled quite yet, but
Okay.
potentially we'll see.
Okay. All right. All right. Shady Luke coming in, Eagles fan, says, looking at the Niners schedule, I don't know if you could tell if they're legit or not from the season. The playoffs would be my measure, which is crazy to say. Yeah, I don't disagree with that, but there's enough games on the schedule for the 49ers to know what they are. Again, I just talked about a 2 week stretch there where they play the Rams on the road and then they play the Bucks on the road. That's not going to be easy, but they play Seattle twice, which the division's tough. They play the Cardinals twice, and they play the Falcons as well. I think it's going to be enough of a litmus test to know what they are. If they have, let's say, those 5 or 6 games that are somewhat tough, and they go 2-3, or maybe they go 4-1, whatever it is, we'll kind of know based off of those chunk of games what the 49ers are or what they're not. It is tough for sure, but it's still possible to figure out what they are and what that litmus test looks like. I think there's enough games to make an actual fair assessment of this team. That being said, let's do a little bit of sleeper picks here, man. We gotta take our freebie. We're gonna do the Thursday night football game. We're taking Tua. As long as he's not concussed, we should be able to get at least one passing yard from him. So this should be a freebie. Um, All right, you tell me if there's anything you like. I like this Cook one because last week he went absolutely
He
crazy. He
went
just got
off.
his big contract. Here's my concern though, Sunil. When I look at 68.5 yards, this seems like an absolute no-brainer, but it's always the no-brainers that trip you up and you end up losing. So I don't know which way to go on this one. Maybe you can set me straight, or maybe you want to stay away from it altogether. 68.5 rushing yards for Cook. What do you think on this one?
I see your point on that one. If this was combined yards, it'd be a hammer more. But with rushing, he is a dual threat in the sense that he's a big part of their passing game. So I do think he's going to have, a significant amount of yards. I just don't know how the breakdown is going to be from rushing to passing. So I would probably stay away from this. There are probably some better, easier ones for us to choose.
Okay, we'll stay away from it. We'll stay away from it. What about Josh Allen, 227.5 passing yards?
I'm going to have to go more on that one.
Oh, actually, you know what? We got to stay away from it because it's a promo and we took
Uh,
Tua. So we might have to come back to that Cook. We'll see. All right, here's one. Keon Coleman, 2.5 receptions. We got to hammer the more
that's
on
some
this one,
that's some
right?
more.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Okay. Yeah, this is going to be the one that's going to trip us up. I can already feel it. Uh, all right, let's go. Jalen Waddle, 53.5 receiving yards in this game.
Ugh. That's about what I think he might get. So I might have to go less.
Okay.
I just don't trust Tua. And I know this defense is good. So
Well, you do trust him to get a half a yard at least, right?
that's it. That's it.
Okay,
And it
that's
might be
about
to
it.
a
Okay.
chain. What's the a chain? Is that a promo or are we could
39 and no, it's not. 39.5 receiving yards.
I'd go more on receiving. Is that
Receiving.
receiving?
Receiving.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, I think he's gonna get more because I do think they're gonna throw a lot of screens because I don't think there's gonna be a lot down the field for them. A lot of
Okay,
time.
this actually makes me feel good because you went less on Waddle and more on Chain. Like I feel like there's some strategery happening here. If you
Yeah,
had just
yeah.
said more on
I don't
both, then
I don't think there's gonna be a lot of time for Tua.
okay.
So we already know he said to his guy, I'm not gonna be able to throw the ball down 80 yards. So like yeah, I'm thinking it's gonna be a lot of short passes.
Tua's really self-deprecating over the last 2 days because he
Yeah.
said that, and then he came out and talked about Josh Allen and how great he is and how he can't do half of what Josh Allen does. So it's almost like he's telling all the Tua-neers, like, listen, pump your brakes. I'm not very good. Just chill out. All right.
I mean,
Very, very interesting.
Tua seems like he's going to be in the Kyle Shanahan reclamation backup role here pretty soon, next few years. So
The
we'll
question
see.
is when Mike McDaniel comes back, is he going to want him here or not? That's the real
That's
question.
true. That's true. Hey, we know when he got hired to the Dolphins, he said a lot of great things about Tua. So we don't know if it's if that is still the
That was a
same
lie.
sentiments now.
That's we're putting them on Maury, and the lie detector determined that that was a lie. So we don't believe him here. All right. We're gonna do 10 on this one. 6.5 times. We'll submit that entry. That'll put us at around $65 or so in winnings, $65.30 to be exact. So you too can play Sleeper. We actually have our fantasy league in Sleeper, our dynasty league, which Joe Burrow was one of my quarterbacks. He's done for the season, so my year is already pretty much shot. But that's not Sleeper's fault by any means. At least I'm going to recoup my money with our picks this week. Real skill based picks that we've got here. You can either tail us or you can fade us, whatever you want to do. But either way, use Sleeper promo code LSS to get your 100% deposit match. And it is pinned to the top of the chat. Just hit that right there. You can sign up as well. Have some fun with us. All right, Sunil, let's get back to the show, though, brother. This game this week is a big game. Yes, the 49ers are 2-0, but starting out in the division 2-0 would be even better. They are playing the Cardinals. The Cardinals have some injuries of their own. We understand that. Mac Jones played really, really good football on Sunday. He just did. But can he duplicate it? So the question is Brock Purdy is a fast healer from what we hear, and there's a possibility he might play this week. If he does play, we also know that he's not going to be 100%. So based off of that, if Brock Purdy's, say, 70%, wants to play, should the 49ers save him from himself and allow him to sit one more week and be confident in Mac Jones that he can get the job done? Or should they bring back in Brock Purdy to go win this thing at home, the home opener against the Cardinals in division? What do you think about this one?
Yeah, and I think look, most people would say that the biggest question mark on this team is the team's offensive line. Especially now, we got the news that Ben Barch is out for numerous weeks as well. Even though I know Colby came in and I think did pretty decent behind him, but the one thing the Cardinals did this offseason was really fortify their defensive line. They have two studs on the edge over there in Calais Campbell and is it Sweat that's there?
They have
Or
Sweat, yeah. They got
yes,
Sweat. They picked up Sweat. They picked up Campbell, and they picked up another big defensive lineman
yeah,
on the interior. And then they have some good rushers in Browning and what have you too. Yeah.
yeah, and they still have that. Was it Hodge that rookie or that guy they drafted a few years ago? I forget that was like that tweener linebacker pass rusher that's
They've
pretty
got,
athletic.
yeah, they've got a ton. Yeah.
Yeah, so I one thing about Purdy is his mobility is the way that he evades pressure.
Hmm.
And I think that there's a chance that there potentially could be pressure in this game, right? And so if Purdy isn't feeling comfortable, and I don't know too much about turf toe, but I'm assuming that planting and making quick kind of explosions off of that toe is what causes that injury and what could re-aggravate that injury. And I do think he's going to need that to be able to play the way that Purdy plays. Because unfortunately, Purdy plays one way, and he doesn't know how to turn that off, which is what is great about him, but also can get him into trouble. So for me, I personally think that I would like to err on caution with Purdy, especially because of how much we invested in. We know that for the maximum we're going to be able to do with this team. I do believe Purdy has to be at the helm. It's not going to be on Mac Jones' shoulder, but we have seen Mac play well enough to get a win. So I would roll out there with Mac and let Purdy fully get healthy, where he gets his mobility back close to 100%, and then get him out there so that way he could um, have all of his tools that he needs to protect himself out there in a game where we know that he might get pressured, he might get he has to evade pressure. So for me, I'm keeping Purdy off till his mobility is at least 85% to where it needs to be.
No, I completely agree, and I think the chance of re-injury, and I don't know the nature of the injury. You know, can he make it worse by playing? If there is no chance of making it worse, maybe. But not only do I worry about the mobility, but I worry about that. That's his back foot. That's the foot he drives off of. And Purdy has to play with a lot of anticipation already because his arm strength isn't, as good as some of the other quarterbacks in the league. And that's fine. But if he loses, let's say, another 10% off that ball because he can't drive off that foot, that's a concern as well, right? And so I think for me, unless he's closer to 100%, I just wouldn't risk it. There's no quarterback controversy, but Mac Jones certainly can get the job done. He did this last week, and I believe he could do it again. So I would feel comfortable with Mac Jones. I think they can win with Mac Jones in this game for sure. And really, I think it's going to come down to their defense because containing Kyler Murray is going to be the real trick. We know that last year he popped off very early in that game, hurt the 49ers big time with his legs. He has made a conscious effort to run the ball more than he did even last year, the year prior, what have you. So this is something that we know is coming the 49ers way. Can they contain him? Can they hold him together? And I feel like if they can do that, then they can turn him into a passer. And I think that's exactly what you want because he'll make those mistakes. So I think that's really where the game's going to be decided, not necessarily at the quarterback position for the 49ers. So I feel comfortable playing Mac Jones, and I would give Purdy one more week at the very least if you can. I think it's worth it to do so. And I think having a guy like Mac Jones who can do what he just did affords you that luxury of doing that. If they had a terrible backup quarterback, maybe if their quarterback situation was what it was last year, probably not ideal. You are trying to rush Brock Purdy back, but I don't think there's a need to do that right now. I think they can win this game without him. I do.
Yeah, I completely agree. And let Mac Jones take that punishment, for lack of a better term, just in case it is there. And I think that once again, we're seeing the genius of Kyle Shanahan's offensive scheme. I think Mac Jones kind of fits in there really well, and so let's go out there, continue with what we have, and like you mentioned, let's keep everybody as close to being healthy come week 6, come week 7, where we could really see what this team is about.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I love these two comments because Shady Luke is an Eagles fan. So we're going to read his. And then we got a comment made about those Eagles as well. Shady Luke says, from a Birds fan, Stout and Green got me hype. I love the young, tough corners. You guys got some Quinion and Coop vibes for sure. Yeah, I don't
Whew.
know if they're quite that good. Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, pretty damn good. But yeah, certainly it looks pretty decent. You know, Renardo Green's battled for sure. He's gotten cooked a little bit, I'm not gonna lie, but he doesn't give up, man. And I think that he has all the makings to be a pretty good corner. And then obviously Stout, he's played pretty well also. But Spidey G comes in, he says, Jesse, hot take, but Jalen Hurts is overrated AF. He says the Eagles could have won the Super Bowl last season with 2018 Goff, 2019 Jimmy G. Like, is Hurts that much better than Purdy? He threw for 101 yards on Sunday. Here's what I will say about Jalen Hurts. You can say whatever you want about him, but he's one of about 5 quarterbacks. Josh Allen, I believe it's Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, him, Joe Montana. I think those 4 for sure, and maybe one more that have played at least like 5 playoff games and get better statistically across the board from regular season to the playoffs. It is very rare to do. And Jalen Hurts plays his best football in the biggest moments. The way that he played in that Super Bowl a couple years ago when they lost was phenomenal. He did it again last year, and he's done it throughout his whole playoff career. So I don't know that game to game in the regular season that he's that much better than Purdy. What I can say is playoff Jalen Hurts is a completely different player, and I will take that guy. He's a gamer. He's a baller when it matters most. He's kind of like Baker Mayfield was last night. Baker Mayfield, good player, but it seems like when that game is on the line, man, he really finds a way to elevate, and that's what Jalen Hurts does, and you can't knock it. Is he my style of quarterback? No, I prefer a quarterback that plays on time within that schedule and within that structure. I prefer a quarterback style to Brock Purdy. But if I got a game on the line in the playoffs, give me Jalen Hurts, man. That guy's an absolute baller. So What do you
Yeah,
think?
and I mean, I think there's a lot to be said about his leadership. He's been one of the best leaders wherever he's gone, as far as his ability to command a team. And there's something to be said about a player that is has his ego out of it and is willing to, he took us a deal that was helpful for the team so that they could retain some of the talent around him. He plays in a way that just wins football games rather than necessarily needing to be the star or do too much, and so on and so forth. And they're able to have all of that talent around them, all happy because of, the style of ball that he's willing to play. Even a guy like AJ Brown, who you would think based off of his lack of numbers that he's getting and things like that, is fine just because, he knows they always have a chance at a Super Bowl.
For sure. Tommy comes in and gifts a membership. I'm curious to see who got that membership, but appreciate you, Tommy. It sounds like you got a gifted membership, and so you're paying it forward. I appreciate you. And then Shady Luke responds and says, Bros had 7 different coordinators and didn't pop with more until like week 6. This is true. This is his 4th year in a row with the new offensive coordinator. It's not easy to do. We see it with Herbert as well. He's going through that. CJ Stroud's going through that. Baker Mayfield every year of his career. Guys like Purdy have been blessed where they've had very much a consistent offensive play caller. Switching that year to year is not easy to do. And some of these quarterbacks can play well despite that, some not so much. And Hertz definitely has. So we do have to give him credit for that. All right. It's interesting because you talked about Kyle Shanahan a little bit earlier, and you talked about how well he is doing with that offense, especially with the backup quarterback. But the question is, and this is going to be a battle I feel like that rages all season long. Week 1 was certainly a defensive win. I think week 2 is probably an offensive win. Who's doing a better job with their unit? Both of them, by the way, have a lot of struggles. You got a lot of rookies on the defensive side of the football. You've got a lot of injuries on the offensive side of the football. Who's doing better with their unit 2 games into the season? Is it Kyle or is it Sala, in your opinion?
Yeah, and I mean, I think this is tough because I do think that both have unique challenges on their side of the ball. Um, Sala primarily with the rookies and a lot of youth that's there and coming into a team, even though he's familiar with some of the players, most of the players are new to him. And then Shanahan is playing with makeshift offense, right? They're pulling receivers that weren't on the team during the training camp and things like Kendrick Bourne just got signed a few days ago and is playing significant time and going out there and putting up enough points for this team to win. I personally would give the nod to Kyle Shanahan, and the reason for that is because uh it is his fault that Moody was on this team week 1. But let's say Moody wasn't out there or could actually hit the gimme field goals that were there. They're putting up over 25 points each game, I believe, right? I think he would have been 26 that week against if they made that extra 6 points. So, a team that's scoring 26 points a game without your bona fide number 1 receiver, without your best offensive lineman, without your number 1 tight end, without your fullback, right? These are all pro players that he's not having on to his behest, playing with your backup quarterback. To me, to still be able to put up the type of points that they're putting up, and for him to kind of shift, Jesse, because look, one thing about Shanahan throughout his whole career, whether it be coach or just offensive coordinator, he's usually at the bottom third of pass attempts per game. And these last 2 games, they've been, 35 plus pass attempts per game, whether it was Purdy at quarterback or Mac Jones. To me, to be able to still win with that style of ball, needing to air it out more than just the run heavy games that they usually play, shows that Kyle Shanahan can win in multiple ways. Once again, I think he's getting these close victory type of monkey off of his back from winning these two close games. And the fact that you can't necessarily look, even though you said, the defense, kind of saved the day in week one, I wouldn't necessarily say the offense wasn't, doing their job. It was just obviously the kicker wasn't finishing off those drives. Otherwise, it would have been a much more comfortable victory for them. So yeah, I give the nod to Kyle Shanahan, and I will say this, and I know I'm a Shanahan, and everybody's probably go at me in the chat, but this potentially, Jesse, if the trajectory goes and look, they make the playoffs and they have a deep run, like let's say they are contenders, Jesse, this potentially could be Kyle Shanahan's best coaching job of his career, based off of what he has to deal with and based off of where they potentially go if the season ends on a very, very high note.
Yeah, listen, if the 49ers win 11 or more games, Kyle Shanahan has to be in the running for coach of the year. He just has to be. I mean, it would not be easy to get there. So that would be major kudos to him. It is tough, right? Because Kyle Shanahan is often talked about as just an offensive coordinator when he's truly the head coach of this team. He's responsible for everything. Every hire, every decision, everything goes through him. So, when we look at comparing him to Robert Saleh and we're talking about just the offensive versus the defensive unit, we do also almost have to handicap it a little bit because Kyle is responsible for the whole team. And Kyle's also responsible for putting Saleh into place. He was also responsible. You talked about the Jake Moody thing, like that hurt the points that they were able to put up because of it. He's got more responsibilities than just being an offensive play caller. But for the sake of comparison, just the offense versus the defense, who's been more impressive so far? Um, I think you really could go either way. Obviously, you went with Kyle, so I will go the opposite and say that it's Saleh's unit. And really, the only reason that I will say that, and it comes down to this for me: both of these games, regardless of what happened with the offense, and in game one, the offense did just enough. They scored, they took the lead at the end, but Seattle did have the ball and they were driving. That game, ultimately, if Seattle had scored there, the defense would have gotten blamed big time. No matter how well they played all game, everybody would have blamed the defense. They needed a stop. They needed to close the game out on defense. They did that. They won. This week, something very similar. 49ers had the lead. They had two chances at the end because the defense gave them the ball back to go close out the game, run out the clock. They could not do that. And so the defense had to be on the field with a lead and get a stop to close this thing out. And they did it again. So because they've been the closers so far, I'm going to give the nod to the defense, but both of them have done a phenomenal job with the circumstances at hand. And one thing that I did say after week one was I wanted to see this defense more. Yes, the defense looked really good, but are they truly that good? And the reason I had those questions is because Seattle had a new quarterback. They had a reworked offensive line. They had a new wide receiving core, and they had a new offensive play caller. Not that big of a surprise that they might start off the season slow. So, did they start off slow because the 49ers defense is good, or did they start off slow because of their own reasons? Then we saw this week the defense wasn't as hot. They didn't have their fastball. They did struggle to stop the run at times. And New Orleans was able to put up points and really could have had more. Olave was wide open to start that game. He hits that throw. Spencer hits that throw, and all of a sudden that game could be completely different, but he didn't. And once again, the Saints did have the ball last. 49ers defense had to come through, and they did so. They were the closers. So I will give the slight edge to the defense, but both are doing a phenomenal job. They really are. So far, so good 2 weeks into the season. A lot of arguments going on about who's a mod, who's not, who should be, who shouldn't. Listen, if you want to be a mod, just ask. If you've been in the chat for a while, I'll mod you. It's not that big of a deal. But you cannot delete other mods. You're not like a super mod where you can delete others. That's not the way that it works. I want to clear that up as well. All right, brother. I got another topic for you. And this was brought up by you, which I love this because we are almost on rookie watch all season long. How are these guys progressing? Who's getting better? Who's struggling? Now, Collins, for example, really struggled the week one, but week two, he showed up, man. He played a much better game. He was a bit of a force. That was great to see. Give me your rookie of the week, man. There's a lot to choose from here. Who's your rookie of the week, and why are they your rookie of the week?
Um, yeah, I think I'm gonna go with who you just mentioned because I think you might go the opposite side of the ball. But for Ben Barch to go down, for Connor Colby to come in and allow zero pressures, zero hits, zero sacks. Um, I think that's huge for for and also a lot of times that left guard is getting, especially with the 49ers with Trent Williams there, you're getting a lot of the benefit of playing next to Trent Williams. But Trent, even though I think he had a great game this week, he's not the same Trent that we're used to. That he has up and down games. So for Connor Colby to come in as a 22-year-old rookie to get thrown into a game that is meaningful for the team as far as what their goals are, and a game that should be won protecting a backup quarterback. Right, your starting quarterback was injured in the week before. I think he came out, played admirable. He's going to be playing that left guard position for a few weeks here, and potentially, may earn the right to be that starter even when Barch is healthy, if he plays well, especially with the stretch that he's going to be playing. So to me, I got give a lot of kudos for him to come in and play that, and if he could turn into a decent player, that would be a big time steal for the 49ers.
Yeah, man, I think that's a great choice. I really do. If you had gone, I think there's an obvious choice, and I'm going to go there just because it's low hanging fruit. But if you had gone with the obvious choice, I would have gone with Connor Colby as well. I think that's a fantastic pick. I really do. He definitely deserves it. And the 49ers, listen, a lot of 49er fans, content creators alike, really crowned Barch like he was going to be that deal. And there was no evidence of it. Literally a one game snapshot is what you had. You've had a lot of injuries and a lot of not being a good player, but one game, all of a sudden, he was the guy to replace Banks. And he's been hurt all offseason. He was hurt in week 1. He's hurt again in week 2. And Colby is a needed piece on this team, and it's not easy to come in as a rookie. Now, luckily, he's playing next to Trent Williams, so that doesn't hurt things. But he did. He looked very good. He graded out well, and we'll see how it goes overall. And I do think if he stays healthy, he will win the job. He will. So even when Barch is back, I just don't think that he's getting that job back unless Connor Colby gets injured. So I think that was a fantastic pick, and it's something that they needed this week for sure. Because if he came in and looked like a rookie, played like a rookie, they could have been in serious trouble in that game. It's already hard enough on Kyle Shanahan. He certainly didn't need those issues for sure. So great choice by you. The obvious one, though, is Michael Williams. I mean, first of all, the victory lapping that people that did not like Michael Williams after 1 week because he didn't record any stats. Um, Clearly, film was not watched because this man was double teamed all over that film. And he is an
He's a
absolute
big dude,
people
Jesse.
mover. Dude, he's a beast. What's crazy is when you watched him in college, and this was my favorite thing about him, he just moves people. If he's one on one, he's driving you back. He may not get any stats from that, but he's putting you into the quarterback's lap repeatedly. And if you double teamed him, even against the best offensive lines in college, he doesn't move backwards. He either holds his ground or he somehow moves two people backwards. I thought there was no way that that could translate immediately in the NFL, and it has. He's 21 years old. He's not even into his full man strength yet. He doesn't move backwards, man. And that last play of the game or one of the last plays of the game where they got the sack, Bosa got the sack, what have you, that was all Michael Williams. He literally just drives his guy into the lap of Rattler and then sticks his hand up so he can't throw the ball. And then Bosa cleans everything up. He gets the stat, but that was all Michael Williams. And then watch him when he gets double team, man. He's pushing guys into the pocket. He's so unbelievably strong. He is a little bit of a hybrid player. I see a lot of Eric Armstead in the fact that he's going to start out as an edge. He certainly could end up being a defensive tackle later in his career. He's got that versatility. But even before he was drafted, Sunil, I'd sent out a tweet and said, if Michael Williams is the pick, and I would love it if he was, there are going to be people that are going to crap on him for the first year of his career because the stats aren't going to be there. Those same people are not going to watch the film to see his impact snap in and snap out. And then as his career progresses and he learns how to refine his pass rush, all of those people will go radio silent. And that's exactly what it took. One game for that to play out, where people were just, oh, they should have went so and so, and I knew that he wasn't refined. And no, watch him play. He's an absolute beast, man. He's a big reason why this defensive line has been effective early on in the season. And when you put him next to Bosa, those two together, you can work stunts and twists and what have you. That's going to be a really fun tandem to watch when they go that NASCAR or turbo package, whatever you want to call it. And those two are next to each other. That's going to be a tandem for many, many years that is going to wreak a lot of havoc on opposing quarterbacks for sure.
I mean, I'm loving a Bosa, Williams, Davis, Huff four-man lineup at the closeout games. That would be,
Yeah.
that's going to be dangerous moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And listen, I mean, I don't know if he'll end up being an edge or if he'll end up playing defensive tackle. But what I will say is I think he can have an impact every bit as big as DeForest Buckner on this team long term. I do think
Look,
he
I
can be
mean,
that good of a player.
the hardest thing for defensive linemen to come in is for their strength to transition over into the league, because they're playing against bigger guys, they're playing against grown men, so on and so forth. The skill set of his rushing, let the defensive line coach train that up. What you can't train up is somebody's strength, which he has in ample amount of strength, and it's shown that he just looks bigger than anybody that the 49ers have and healthy weight, not just massive in size. It looks like he's strong too, which is something we haven't had in some time. We had it with Armstead, but Armstead, I don't even think Armstead was as strong as this guy. So this is,
I don't think so either.
it's
He didn't,
nice
and
to see
his
that
functional strength took about 3 years to get there as well.
Yeah. It's nice to see that the 49ers might have hit on a first rounder, because that isn't normal for them.
For
Although
sure.
Pearsall's looking good too. So I don't know. They might have gone
Yeah.
back to back with some hits.
Yeah, for sure. Papa says Niners should keep building through the draft and trade for Bijan or another elite running back in a year or two. That blueprint seems to work. Okay, I would love to get Bijan in a couple years. Shady Luke says, wasn't saying Stout and Green are Coop and Q level. I just think that there is something there. No, I understand what you were saying, but that was really high praise of you. It really was. SoCal Ram says, cannot wait for Thursday Night Football, Jess. The Rams dub. We'll be there together. Can't wait for that. And then Shady Luke says, Jess, besides the one play, honest question, how good is Huff playing? I think he's getting a lot of credit for one or two plays. I haven't seen him do a lot on film, but we'll see. I mean, that's all they need really from him is a couple plays a game. So we'll give him credit for that, but I don't think he's that great for sure. Here's what I will say. Everybody in this chat, as soon as this ends, you're going to be linked over to the NFC West roundtable. For those of you that watch Behind Enemy Lines, Brandon was on the show 2 weeks ago. He picked the Seahawks. I picked the 49ers. The 49ers won, and we had a hat bet. He has to wear a very funny hat on that show. So do not miss it. Make sure you see me cash in on that hat bet. It's definitely worth it. You'll be automatically redirected over there. It'll start in about 5 minutes. So I will see you over there. Sunil, appreciate you, everybody in the chat, for contributing. Appreciate you. Much love. Talk soon. Peace.